Hi, I'm Jeff Gonzales, president of Trident Concepts, and today I'm here with CCW Safe to talk about my new book, The Concealed Carry Manual. Today's chapter is going to be about selecting a firearm that is ideally suited for concealed carry. So there's a lot of choices when it comes to different handguns and different pistols that you might want to consider for concealed carry. So what we're going to try to do is break it down into some important categories or factors that you want to consider when you're shopping around for a firearm. Now, if you've already bought a firearm, great. How well did you choose that firearm? Using these categories, start to evaluate it on your own. So the very first thing that we talk about with regards to a firearm is the first rule of a gunfight is to have a firearm. So I try to use that as like a blanket statement that, all right, so maybe I didn't nail it out of the gate. Maybe I'm still undecided about exactly what's going to work best for me. But the bottom line is that, if you have something to work with, that's a start point, and that's the baseline that we'll kind of use to progress forward. What I try to get across to people is that it's hard to get it right out of the gate. You're going to have to accept that maybe through time, experience, and more exposure, you start to figure things out on your own. So the first thing that we talk about is we want to define what our primary carry gun is, and because there's a lot of different choices when it comes to the firearms and the handguns and whatnot. So I typically kind of separate something that I might be considering for my home defense gun and something that I might consider for my carry gun. Now, truthfully, I could probably get double duty from the right choice, but in the beginning, I try to separate these two just to kind of keep things simple. So we'll talk about home defense stuff a little bit later. Right now, we're going to focus on carry. When it comes to carry, the very first thing that we talk about is the caliber that you're selecting. There are a lot of calibers, and my recommendation is to streamline your approach and stay within the 9mm family. There's a lot of reasons why. You can do all sorts of research online about the performance, terminal performance behind the various calibers, and what you're going to find is that the 9mm is doing as good, if not better job than just about all those other calibers. And here's the kind of the big kicker. You get to carry more bullets when you select the 9mm versus 40, 45, and some of the other calibers. So stick to the 9mm family, you'll be good. The next thing we talk about is size and weight. And this is where the carry gun kind of comes into its own, because typically when we start thinking about carry guns, we start thinking about size, and specifically compact, small, pint-sized little blasters. There is points of diminishing return when you go so small that maybe it becomes a little bit hard to handle. It might be easy to conceal, but then when it comes to the shooting aspect, maybe a little bit difficult. So you're going to have to weigh the pros and cons behind all of these things. But here are some good left and right limits to think about. When it comes to the size of the firearm, I usually measure it by the barrel length. And I want to choose a firearm that has a barrel length between about 3 to 4 inches. When it comes to the weight, I'm looking unloaded. I'm looking at something that's between 18 ounces and about 30 ounces. So the lighter end is going to be about 18 ounces and the higher end will be about 30. And if you can do that, what you're going to do is you're going to find a good balance between overall length and the weight of the firearm. And that has that will directly apply to how comfortable you are carrying long term. An hour here or there, no problem. All day long, for the entire year, for your entire lifetime, whatever, that's where it starts to wear on you. That's where weight and the size of the firearm is going to really make a difference. The next thing we talk about is magazine capacity. And this is, again, one of these other, an area that I try to focus on simply because when it comes to the magazine capacity, I want something that has at least 10 rounds. Now, here's the reasons why. I could choose something that's a little bit smaller, magazine capacity that is, and that's going to mean overall smaller firearm frame. The problem with that is the magazine capacity has direct correlation with my performance. So I'm going to be under stress, I'm probably going to be behind the 8-ball, and I'm going to be needing to catch up quickly. With all of that being said, I need to probably anticipate that maybe I'm not going to be performing at my best, so maybe I either miss or my shots are peripheral hits, or it just takes more rounds to put down the threat. Then I need to also take into consideration, what if it's more than one threat? What if I have to deal with multiple threats? So that's where that magazine capacity of at least 10 rounds really comes into its own. The last thing that we talk about, and this is something related to outside of the firearm itself, are the accessories. If you choose a firearm that's kind of like a niche firearm, that's great, that's awesome. You're probably going to enjoy it. The problem is you may find it difficult to find the accessories to support that firearm. And the biggest accessories that we're talking about are going to be a holster, possibly sight systems, maybe even extra magazines. So if your firearm is kind of like a niche firearm, all that means is that you're going to have a harder time getting all that equipment. Eventually, the market will catch up. You'll eventually find quality holsters from a variety of different holster manufacturers. But to put it mildly, manufacturers are going to focus on what is selling. What is the mass sales that they can look at capitalizing on. And the niche markets, they are not going to put a lot of effort into it. So when eventually they get around to doing it, it might be a while. So focus on something that is easy to support through the acquisition of various accessories. So again, if you kind of focus on these categories, these kind of like features, if you will, you're probably going to find something that's going to meet your needs very easily. All right. If you want to learn more, check out the book, concealedcarrymanual.com. If you want to post some questions, feel free to do that down below. Until then, I'm Jeff Gonzales. Take care and stay safe.